Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make some macrame diamond shaped earrings. And this is what they look like. So you have your earring and then this diamond shape created with macrame technique. And this one I just made just with cord and all the same colour, well thread actually. So you can make them plain like this, or you have some other options. Also just using the thread alone, but I've just added a pattern in the colours that I've used, so graduate it from the inside out in blue tones. So that's just another option. And then you can also add beads to them. Here are some I made, again just using one colour of thread, but then adding beads in a certain pattern to achieve this look then. And you can obviously add the beads however you want, in whatever pattern you want. Like these ones I've made, I've turned them into flags. So this is basically the Danish flag with red cord or thread and then white beads in the middle. So this is a few different options. It's just to show the different things you can do with this technique. Whether you want to add beads or just use thread alone. Completely depends on the design that you want to do. But I'm going to show you how to make the technique and also how you add the beads. So if you want to learn how to make these, then stay tuned. Now these are the things that you'll need to make these earrings. You'll need some kind of thread or cord. In this case I'm just using some nylon thread in a white colour, and this is about a 0.35 to a 0.4 mil thickness, because that's what makes it macrame. You can obviously make this in loads of different types and sizes of cords as well. This is just to achieve the look with the earrings that I showed you. And then you'll need some kind of beads. Now I use some seed beads for this because you need them to be really nice and small, because you need them to fit within these little waves that we'll be making within the actual technique and pattern with the macrame. But then also you still need the hole to be large enough for whatever thread or cord you're using to go through. So I'm just using a blue and a red one in this case because that's to achieve the pattern that I want. And then we'll need some glue. I'm just using some Hypo cement, and this is just to finish it off at the end. You'll need obviously a scissor to cut whatever thread or cord you're using. And then you'll need some jump rings. Now you'll need one jump ring per earring because that's what we're going to be making the macrame onto. So we're going to be making the piece from the jump ring. And then you'll need whatever earring findings that you want to use. So get your things together and then let's get started. So the first thing you want to do is we need to cut all the threads or cords ready. And I've done that in this case. So what you'll need is, to make the specific ones, the earrings that I'm going to show you, is you'll need to use 21 lengths of cord or thread. If you want a larger piece, so larger earrings or so, you need more. If you want it to be smaller, you can just use less. But for the ones I'm going to be showing you, I'm going to be using 21 lengths of thread. And the length of these, again, it kind of depends. If you're using them with something else, other materials, it can alternate as well, how long they need to be. But if you use them roughly the same as me, there's one way of doing it which is kind of the easy way, that you don't have to worry too much about different measurements. If you want to do that, then just make all your lengths of cord or thread 65 centimeters long. But if you do want to kind of be a little bit more, save your materials so you don't waste too much of your materials, then what you need to do is you need to make 3 lengths of your thread or cord 65 centimeters, so the same measurement that I just told you, but then the rest you need to gradually make shorter because they don't need to be as long. Because if I can explain to you, the middle ones, because the 3 that I told you to make 65 centimeters, and the middle ones, that's the ones we're going to attach to the jump ring to begin with, to then start working off of, because that's the one that runs down through the middle of the piece. You use them cords or threads, and then each time you add a new thread in, you're stepping down, so as you can see you'll need shorter and shorter lengths until you get to the very end where it doesn't need to be very long at all. So all I would say is just every time you then cut off, start with your 65 centimeters for the 3 middle cords, and then take it a few centimeters shorter every time you cut the next thread. And remember, you need, apart from the middle ones, you need 3, but the rest you need 2 of each length, because you obviously need to mirror on both sides. So I hope that made sense. So cut your cords or your threads, and then I'll show you how we start off. So the first thing we need to do is you need to get your 3 longest lengths of your thread out, and we now need to attach these to a jump ring. So we'll do one at a time, and the way that we need to attach them is using the lark's head knot. If you're not familiar with that knot, then I'll show you how to do it here, but I also have a video on how to do basic macrame knots that might be helpful. So I take the longest lengths and then I fold it over, so this is about the middle, so I have this loop, and then I keep hold of that loop. I get my jump ring, and make sure that your jump rings are closed so your cords or threads can't slip out. And then what you want to do is put this loop through the jump ring like so, and then grab the loop again, and then bring that around, put your fingers through the loop, and then pull the ends through that loop, and then tighten it. And then that's your first thread attached to your jump ring. So when you loosen it up, you have something that looks roughly like this. So it's just like you would attach using a lark's head knot on anything else. You're just doing it onto a jump ring, and then tighten it. And then obviously we'll need to do the others as well. So get your next piece of thread, fold it over so you have roughly the middle here where the loop is. Grab that loop and grab your jump ring, and put the loop through your jump ring, and grab hold of the loop, bring it out, and then pull the ends. Put your fingers through the loop and pull the ends through that loop like so. So again we have this, and tighten it. And that's how you attach them, and you want to attach the last one as well, obviously. So we have our 3 threads attached to the jump ring. So now I've attached all my threads to my jump ring, and we need to start working on it. So I need to fasten it down to something so I can have it securely in place while I work on it. So I'm just going to be using this board and some pins. So I'm going to just use my jump ring with my pins just to fasten it in place. So I put my pins just inside the jump ring just to tense it out, and so it sits in place, because now I can pull on my threads and it stays where I put it, so I can start working with it. So I've now fastened it to my board so I can start working with it. Now I've already decided what pattern I'm going to do on this, because I made the first one, and in the video I'm going to be making the second earring. So what I've done is I've made the American flag, basically, a pattern to look like that. So that means that this is the pattern I'm going to be following the second one. So what we need to do is we need to start making the very first wave, you can call it, at the top. And this is what we're going to be using these 3 lengths of cord for that we've attached, that have now turned into 6 lengths basically, that we're working with. So what you need to do is start with the middle 2 or the middle one that's doubled over. And then you want to cross them over each other, because if you look close to the lark's head knot, you can see them naturally coming out to each their side. So you want to cross one over the other, and the one you cross over that goes above is your holding cord, and the other one that's beneath is going to be the working cord. So I take the working thread around my finger and through the loop, and then tighten it all the way up to right below the lark's head knot, so it won't go any further. And then you do that one more time. So you always want to make double half hitches, like so. So that's the first one, and then we need to continue to make the curve shape that we have to almost form that wave shape. So we need to bring in the next, I'm going to continue on the left side, so bring in the very next one and bring that over your finger and through the loop, again coming underneath your holding cord, tighten it, again because we're making double half hitches, around your finger and through the loop, and tighten it like so. Put that a bit to the side. The others put over to the other side because we'll be moving on to them in a bit. Just finish off this side first. So bring the last one left on the left side, underneath, and then around your finger and through the loop, and tighten it, around your finger and through the loop, and tighten it. So what we've done is we're coming out at an angle. So basically from the jump ring it grows outward but downward as well, so it comes out at an angle, the row of knots that you're making. So what we need to do now to make the curve is we need to come back in the other way. So to do that, we switch the holding cord over to the other hand, and then the working cord that the very last one you just used to make knots with, you want to use that straight away again, but bring that back the other way as well, and make sure it stays underneath your holding cord. So then around your finger and through the loop, and then tighten it, and make sure you hold your holding cord nice and taut when you're tightening your knots. And one more time around your finger and through the loop, like so. And then we need to move on to the next one, but because in this pattern, my very first wave, I've added a bead, so we just need to make sure we add that into it. But I'm also going to just tell you how, if you don't want to add the bead, you just do the same thing, just obviously without adding the bead. So before we finish off this side, I'm just going to go over to the other side and get to the same point. So we go back to the cord that you used from the middle, so not these three that you just used on the left side, go back to the one coming out from the middle ones that originally was your working cord. So now that's your holding cord for this side. So we want to do the same thing, make the curve going outward and then back inward. So then you grab the next thread and bring it underneath, and then around your finger and through the loop, and then tighten it until it won't go any further, and around your finger and through the loop, and tighten that. So that's your first one. Bring in the last thread on that side, underneath again, around your finger and through the loop, like so. And one more time, double half hitches, and tighten. So that's the same step we got to before, where we have a row of knots coming out at an angle. So now we need to move back in the other way again to get the curve. So we switch hands again to switch direction. So the holding thread goes to the opposite hand and your working threads go the other way. Again, the working threads come underneath your holding thread. So you then take the first one that you literally just used, around your finger and through the loop, tighten it, around your finger and through the loop, and tighten it. So now we're in the same place that we stopped on the other side. So we haven't quite finished off the curves on either side yet, because before we do that we just want to add in the bead. Now if you don't want to add the bead, all you do is literally just leave it out and follow the same steps, but just don't add the bead. So I'm going to add one of my beads, and in this case it obviously has to be blue to fit in with the flag, the pattern that I made on the other earring, and then kind of bring it down your thread. Now I'll put it on the one coming from the left side, that side that we did first. Again, it doesn't matter what side you do first or last because you're going to be doing the same things anyway. But then this is your two threads coming out of the very middle of your piece, like so. Then you want to put the other side through as well. Like so. So you get both of these middle threads through your bead. And then just tighten that to bring the bead all the way up. So this is the point we're at now that we've added in the bead, so we need to finish off both sides. So just put one side away just to make sure you're just dealing with the right threads. And what you do is you go back to your holding thread on that side where you used your first working thread on. Now you want to use the second one that was coming out of the middle that we put the bead onto. If you don't want to add the bead, you just avoid the bead but go in and just do this same thing. So basically make this knot now without adding the bead. So what you do is you make sure your holding thread is above and your working thread is beneath, and then again just around your finger and through the loop to make your double half hitch, around your finger and through the loop, and then tighten them both so they come up right by all your other knots. So that's that side done. So we need to move to the other side. This is why you couldn't quite finish the sides before because you needed to add the bead in between before you could finish them off. If you just did it without adding the bead, you could just do one full side at a time and then connect them together. But then you just need to take the working thread around your finger and through the loop on the other side as well, just to finish off this side. Tighten it around your finger and through the loop, like so. So you now have both sides finished with the curves, and then your two holding threads from each side. All you need to do now is connect them at the bottom. The way we do that is basically the same thing that we did right at the beginning. The first two middle threads we crossed over each other. You want to do the same thing and make sure you cross them over the same way. So what comes natural to me is I always cross my right one over, and then the one that goes over becomes your holding thread. You can do it the other way if you want to, it's personal preference. Just try and make sure you do the same thing throughout to keep the look consistent. And then you just do your double half hitch with these two, tighten that, and then that closes up the two sides and connects them together, like so. So that's your first wave done. Added a bead and leave it out if you don't want to add the bead. So now we need to move on to the sides. Now this is where it comes in if you're using the different lengths of thread, that the three inner ones are the ones we just used. They need to be the longest ones, like I said. And then now we need to add in a thread again. And this is where you want to gradually make them shorter and shorter. But then every time you take in the longest ones, the next time you take some, then you need to take the longest ones that you've got left. So in this case, this is the longest ones I have left now because I've already used the three very longest ones. And what you do is the very outer thread, you can start on the other side if you want to, it doesn't matter, because you're going to be doing the same thing on both sides. What you need to do is take the very outer thread and then attach your new thread onto that. And we'll be doing that by folding that over in half, getting your loop at roughly the middle, just like before, putting that underneath, and then again we'll be using the lax head knot to attach this. So get the loop underneath and put your fingers through the loop, go back grab the ends and pull them all the way through, like so, and then tighten, and then you use the lax head knot to attach the new thread to the existing one. But what we just need to do is we just need to make a half hitch on each side of this lax head knot. The way to do that is, as you can see, like I said before, you go close to your lax head knot, you have your two threads coming out, and they're kind of naturally coming out to each their own side. So just stick to that side. So the one coming to the right side of the knot, I'm going to grab that end, take it back around the holding thread that you've already attached it to, and then bring the thread around that and then back through the loop, like so. And then you tighten that all the way up next to your lax head knot. And you do the same thing with the thread on the other side, and then you stay to this side of the lax head knot. So put it back around that holding thread all the way around, and make sure to pull it through the loop you created. And then tighten it. Then you can grab both threads and make sure it's nice and tight. So then you have your new thread attached on to the existing one. And you need to make sure you remember to do those extra half hitches on each side of your lax head knot, because you need that spacing with the knots. So then all you do is push it down your holding thread all the way down so it won't go any further, like so. So this will then basically help create your very next loop or wave, and it's going to keep growing outward. So what we need to do now is, this is the first step. We have the row of knots, the ones we just attached, coming out at an angle. So we need to go back in the other way, change direction. So what you need to do is put your holding thread around the other way in your other hand, bring it above those two you just attached, or the one thread you just attached, make sure they're below, and then you make your double half hitches coming the other way, back on itself basically, like so. And this is why you wanted to make sure you did the extra half hitch on each side of the lax head knot, because that's going to be the equivalent to your double half hitches you're going to be making on the other side coming back. So in this case, looking at the pattern, those are these two loops that I'm making, and they don't have any beads in them. So I'm just going to continue without adding a bead. So you grab the very next one, next thread, over your finger and through the loop, and tighten it to come back on itself, to make sure you get that curve, rounded curve coming around, and the other half hitch to make it a double half hitch, like so. And then we need to move on to the middle part, because the middle builds up. Every time you add a new one, you work your way into the middle and it builds up this way. So just still focus on the one side, keep the others to the side, out of the way. So the very furthest one to the right in this case, so the very middle thread out of the piece, that's your holding thread now for the next part. And then you grab the very next thread, you can tell, that's coming up from the previous wave, and then making your double half hitches with that, tightening it, like so. So again, we're going to be working out at an angle. Now the next thread you need to grab is the holding thread from the loop that you created by adding the thread, because that will then connect your waves together as well. So you just make sure it comes underneath your holding thread, around your finger and through the loop, tighten it, One more time. And then as you can see, that's then connected the new wave to the ones that you do in the middle. And then again, we need to go back on ourselves to create the curve on this side, around your finger and through the loop. So you just switch hands around your finger and through the loop, like so. And remember, because in the middle we again need to add a bead, so I'm not going to completely finish this middle until I've done the same on the other side, so reach the same point, so we can then add the bead in the same way that we did before. So I just put these out of the way now to just not get tangled up and mixed up with the threads. Move back to the other side, and this is now where we want to get the other longest thread out, so the one that was the same length as the one you added to this side. So just fold that over in half, you get the loop in the middle, and then you take the very outer thread and want to attach it to that using the lark's head knot, like so. So that's attached onto there now. Remember to make double half hitches, sorry, just the half hitches, not the double. Make a half hitch on each side of that lark's head knot. So take it around your thread, all the way back on itself and through the loop, and then tighten. And then you push that down, like so. And then what I will start to do, because now we have a little bit of work done, is you can start putting some extra pins in to help keep the work in place, just so it doesn't move about too much. Like so. So that's that one extra thread attached now. So we'll do the exact same thing as the other side. Change direction, so switch hands, and then just use the same thread you just did, make your double half hitches to go in the other direction. And using the next one, around your finger and through the loop, and tighten it, and then you have that curve on here. So now we need to move into the middle and start the middle wave. So again, try and ignore the ones from the other side. So we're just grabbing the two unused threads from this side now. The very middle one, or the inner one, is your holding thread, and the other one comes underneath, and then around your finger through the loop twice, and tighten, like so. So we start to work on that row of knots outward on this side. And then to bring this wave into it, we take the holding thread from that one, bring it underneath, and use that as our next working thread with our double half hitches. Around your finger and through the loop, just like we did on the other side, like so. And then we're in the middle again. We need to do our curves on there. So switch hands, switch direction, to make sure you get that curve. Starting off with the same thread that you just used, like so. And like I said, not just finish it off, because we need to add in that bead before we use these two middle threads. So I'm going to add a bead to one side first, just like I did before. It didn't quite work. I'm going to grab another one. Put that onto one first. And grab the other thread and get that through the bead as well. Like so. And then just push it all the way up so it sits inside those curves that we've done. And then now to finish off them, we just go back to the holding thread and then use the thread that we just added the bead onto to finish it off with a double half hitch. So that's that side, and then the other side, again, take the same holding thread that you've used throughout this side, the other one underneath, around your finger and through the loop, tighten it, and one more time, like so. So again, now that's both sides finished off with the curves, and then we're left with the two middle ones, so the two holding threads from each side, one from each side, that we now again want to cross over to connect, to make it basically like one wave. And again, I take my right one over, you can do the other way, just make sure you do the same thing throughout, because in the previous one I took the right one over. So this one that goes above is your holding thread around your finger and through the loop, like so, around your finger and through the loop, and then they're all attached and they're all connected. So that's the next level. So we've now reached the next level where again we need to add in our thread. So we've made the first 4 waves basically, and we now need to reach the next ones, which is also where I'm going to add a bead. So again, we'll do the exact same thing. So you want to start with one side at a time and put the other threads out of the way, just to not get them mixed up or anything. So you now want to grab your 2 longest threads that you have left, if you're working with the cost-effective way. Otherwise just grab 2 threads, and then start with the very outer thread, the very most outer one on the left side, the one furthest to the left, and then attach your thread again using the lark's head knot, doing the exact same thing that we just did before, like so, doing your half hitches, one on each side of the lark's head knot, like that, tighten it, so that's attached now, push that all the way down, and then we need to start making the first wave. So we need to change direction because we just made the first row of knots. So put your holding thread in the other hand and then make your double half hitches, like so. And then we need to use the next one, but just exactly like before. But before we do that, because according to the pattern, I need to now add a bead within this wave. So what I'm going to do is grab one of my beads and then add that onto this thread that I'll be using next as my working thread. So just add that onto there and let it drop all the way down so it sits inside that curve that you're making, and then put your threads into position again. So you bring your holding thread over the other one and just do your double half hitches just like you did before. The only difference is you now have a bead in there in the middle, like so. So that's the first most outer curve now. Now move on to the next one. So you always want to move on to the next 2 threads, the very next 2 that you haven't used yet. So in my case that's these 2. And then what you need to do is the one furthest to the right, you need to cross over the other one out of them 2, because that's then your holding thread, because you need to make your row of knots going outward at that angle in this direction. And then you make your double half hitches, like so. That's your first one. And then we need to connect the wave that you just made and put the bead into. You need to connect that to this one. So use the holding thread from that one and do your double half hitches. like so. Now that's nice and tight and connected, and then we want to change direction again, around your finger and through the loop, you double half hitches, just using the same one to begin with. And then for this one we're not adding a bead, so we just use the working thread, make a double half hitch like so, and then we reach the middle again where you have the 2 threads left that you haven't used yet. Cross the very most right one over the other one, and then make your double half hitches with that, like so. And then we'll connect the previous wave into that by bringing the holding thread from that underneath, and then making your double half hitches with that, like so. And then switch direction, because we've gone out now, we want to come back in the other way. So with the same thread, and then just like the other times we want to add a bead in this middle one, but we can't do that until we just made the other side. So just put them to the side for now, and then go over to the other side, and then we want to do the exact same thing that we've done on this one. Obviously it's just all mirrored. So get your other thread of the same length that you used on this side, and then the outermost right one on the right side, attach your loose thread to that with your lark's head knot, do your half hitch, one on each side, like so. Grab them and tighten, and then push it all the way down. And then that's the first row. We now need to come back the other way, so change direction, using the very first working thread that you come across, around your finger and through the loop. And then with this one, we needed to add the bead. So the very next working thread, the one you have left of the 2 you just added, or the one you added that turned into 2, add a bead to that, and then cross your holding thread over to basically cage in the bead now. Make a double half hitch with the thread that your bead is on, like so. And that's your first wave on this side. So put those 2 working threads out of the way, we're done with them for now. Grab the very next 2 threads available, and then cross them over, making sure the one from the left side is above, because that's your holding thread. And then you do double half hitches, like so. So that's your first one. We now need to incorporate the wave that you just did on the outside. So the holding thread from that goes underneath. Make your double half hitches with that, like so. Now change direction again, so cross your cords over each other. The holding thread still stays above. Make your double half hitches, and then don't have to add a bead to this one, not with my pattern anyway, so just use it as it is. And that's the next wave, and then you grab the very last 2 threads that you haven't used yet in the middle to create the very center wave. So the one furthest to the left is above, because that's the holding thread, and then you double half hitches with the other one, like so, and then incorporating the holding thread from the previous wave around your finger and through the loop. twice, like so, and then cross them back over each other to come back in the other way. You double half hitch, so we reach the middle again, to the very middle wave that we've almost finished. We just need to use the last 2 threads that are loose in the middle. But before we do that, we just need to add a bead, just like we've done the other times. So just put 1 thread through at a time. Like so. Push it all the way down to sit inside that wave. And then we use the 2 threads that we just put the bead onto to finish off the sides of the wave with our double half hitches, like so. So one side, and do the same on the other side with the other loose one. So the bead gets locked into place basically. So we now have the 2 holding cords in the middle. We need to cross them over and connect them. Again, my right one goes over like I've done the whole time, and then do your double half hitch with those 2, like so. So that's your next section done. And as you can see, it's then gradually grown. Every time we add a new thread, it grows with another section. And then you just keep going like this, grabbing your next set of threads or cords, adding it to the very outer ones, and then work your way down on both sides till they meet up. And obviously you can add beads or not add beads, however you want to, and also make patterns regarding different colours of thread. So those design choices are completely up to you. But then the beads, the way we add the beads, are the same throughout. The only thing in the middle, in the centre, going all the way down the earring, that's the only place where we add both threads through the bead. All the rest on the sides, you just put 1 thread through the bead. So that's the only difference, otherwise it's the same throughout. So you just continue doing that, and it'll keep growing until you reach the point that you want it to be. So I've now reached the end, and I've completed my pattern, so my design is equivalent to the other earring. And then the main part is done now, so all that's left to do is finish off these ends. So to do that, I'm going to take it off the board, like so. And then to finish off these ends, this is where I'm going to get my glue out. And this is where I use my Hypo cement glue. I prefer to use this glue for this kind of thing, because it dries clear, so it won't be visible. And it's really strong, so it also holds everything in place. And when it dries, it kind of stays a bit flexible. It doesn't go hard like some glues, which obviously when you wear it against the skin and that, you don't want it to be hard and scratchy. So there's that, but then also it has a really fine tip to it, which is really handy for certain types of work, especially things like this, because you can get right in there with that tip and put the glue exactly where you want the glue to go. So basically you can do precision gluing. So what I'm going to do is just start squeezing out my glue and go across the whole bottom row where all my cords are coming out. Basically, just put glue right on where the threads and that are coming out, and then also just a little bit around, because you want to be able to cut the threads off without things unraveling and coming undone. So basically glue is just there to hold the ends into place, so you can cut off the excess thread. So just make sure to go all the way across on the one side. And you don't want to put too much glue on there, obviously. It's just enough to hold it, to secure it in place. The other side as well. Just go all the way across the bottom line of your last knots, basically, where your threads are coming out. Making sure you catch everything. Like so. And then I like to also just go on the back and just go across the back as well. Again, literally just where your threads are coming out. Just make sure the glue grabs onto the actual thread, and then just kind of the little knotted area around where they're coming out, so the whole thing stays in place when you cut them off. Remember just to do the tip as well. Just give that a little bit extra, because that's the most fragile part. That's the easiest one to come undone. So just moving your way across, making sure to catch everything, but not put too much on there, because you don't want it to be drowning in glue if you can avoid it. It's just to secure it in place. Like so. So that's both done, the front and the back now. And put your glue away again. And then you obviously just want to leave that to dry, and then when the glue is somewhat dry, then you can cut off the excess. So I've now let my glue dry, and I'm ready to then get my scissor and then go in and cut off all the excess thread. So all I'm going to do is get as close as I can to where the threads are coming out from my piece, but obviously without cutting into the piece and into the knots, because that can make it come undone, and obviously you don't want to ruin all the hard work you've done. So just cut it as close as you can, and this is why as well you need kind of a glue that doesn't go hard when it dries, because then you wouldn't really be able to cut through it this easily. Whereas because this stays flexible, then you can quite easily cut it even after it's dry, without worrying about damaging your scissors or anything. And then the other side. Like so. And then you have the ends cut off, and you can always go in if you need to, if you feel it's necessary, just anywhere, and just trim anything you might have missed off. Just trim off any details sticking out if you need to. And if you feel as well you need to, once you've then cut them off, you could always go in and just put a little bit of extra glue on the ends that you cut off. Not too much, just keep it at minimum, because you don't want to bulk it up with glue, but just to basically seal off the ends. So you could always do that if you're a bit nervous that it's going to come undone. But otherwise, that's your earring done. So I now have a set of these. Just need to attach the earring findings, and you can obviously choose whatever kind that you want to use. And you already have a jump ring in there, so you can attach it in any way that you want to. So that's how you make these earrings. And of course, whatever style, whatever design that you want, with or without beads, that design's completely up to you. So I hope you enjoyed that, and thank you very much for watching. Hello there everyone. Today I want to show you how to make this macrame bracelet. And this is what it looks like. So this is the specific one that I'm going to show you how to do in the video to achieve this kind of pattern and this look. using these colours. You can obviously use other colours and even other materials as well. It's just to show you the technique. And on this one I've